What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Hoops All In podcast. As always, I'm your host, Werls Francois, joined by my co-host Keith Bazin. Keith, what's going on, man? How you doing?
I'm good. The first round was very eventful. Got a couple game sevens that we'll talk about, and we're gonna see. We've got the second round almost all set.
Yeah, almost all set. Like you said, we just got one series going on from the first round. That is between the Golden State Warriors and the Houston Rockets. So that
Mhm.
should be taking place, I think, sometime today. So we'll find out the winner of that. But yeah, man. So let's get right into it with the NBA playoffs discussions. But I know before we do that, also don't forget to check us out on our social media platforms. Hoops All In on Instagram, TikTok, and X. Also, listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, iHeartRadio, wherever you stream your weekly or daily podcast. We're on there. And subscribe to Keith's Hoops All In YouTube page at Keith HAI. He does great work over there. So shout out to you, Keith. But yeah, let's get straight right into it. So first, we're going to start with the question of the day presented by Keith. So what you got for us?
So for today's question is, what is a bench player, or like maybe like the 15th man on the roster that doesn't get any burn, that you have hope in or belief in, that you think could become an impactful player? They don't have to be an all-star. They don't have to even be a starter. They could be a bench player. They could be a sixth man at some point in their career, but they're just somebody that doesn't get any opportunity, maybe because they're young or they're just position on their team is jam packed with players, but you want to see eventually be somebody in the NBA.
Mm,
My answer is, I don't know if you've heard about him. This was a second round pick in the 2023 draft. His name's Leonard Miller. He's on the Minnesota Timberwolves. He mainly does stuff. He's mainly a G League player, but he's like a 6'11" like forward. He's pretty versatile from everything I've seen. Um I'm trying to pull up his G League stats. He in 2023, 18 points, 18 points and 11 rebounds. In last season, 20 points, 9 rebounds, and then this year 25 points and 11 rebounds again. He's super versatile, a block and a steal per game. He gets double doubles pretty frequently. He shot anywhere between 32 to 38% from three at his big frame, and he's just someone that I think he could be a super versatile. He mainly to me is like a scorer, but he just seems like one day that he could be somebody in this league with having that big long frame as like a small forward.
okay, okay. I like that answer. Like I said, I never really heard of the guy until you
Mhm.
brought him up now. So thank you for doing that. Me, I'm gonna go with probably a joking answer, Bronny James. We all know the hype surrounding him because of the last name that's on the back of his jersey. But given what he's done in the G League, the guy can actually play. Now, yes, he doesn't have his father, LeBron James' height of 6'8". He's not 250, 260, but he's an explosive 6'2", 6'3" guard who can dunk, who can block shots, who can defend, and has a better shot than his father, LeBron. So I think when given some actual valuable NBA minutes in which he saw, I think he had like 17 points when he played valuable NBA minutes. He could be a valuable contributor to a team. Now, again, he's always going to get the criticism because, again, who his father is and the last name that's on the back of his jersey. But I think he is a true given NBA player. But we're going to have to watch out for Bryce. I think Bryce is the better out of the two. He has his father's heights, not yet his father's strength, but that's over time going to develop. So I'm gonna go with Bryce James. So it's a little funny answer, but yeah, I mean, I want to say this again, not trying to go off topic, but what happened to what's his name? He plays for the Miami Heat.
Tommy
Hawkins
Hawkins.
Jr. Yeah, I mean, last year, his rookie year, he was a stud, and then this year he's just seemingly falling out the rotation. Now there was rumors that he was smashing Eric Spoelstra's ex-wife. I don't know if that's the reason why he's no longer playing. Spo felt away about that, but I mean, come on, man, this guy's barely playing over 10 minutes a game. We saw what he can do. Look at it, 13 minutes against the Cavs, 5 1 minute, 1 minute. So he's just completely fallen out the rotation. His rookie year, he had showed tremendous promise that he
Yeah.
was probably going to be arguably one of the core for the Miami Heat. But He's just falling out the rotation. So I don't get it. I don't know what Coach Popovich, gripe is with the player, but I would like to see him get back into that role because he's very, very efficient player and can obviously ball.
Yeah, he was all rookie in his rookie year, so
Mhm.
he was a top 10 rookie in the draft class. He was drafted right after the Lakers selected Jalen Hood Schifino, who got pretty much bounced around earlier this season and never really played for them because it's a young guard. He was
Mhm.
like a 19-year-old guard, and obviously the Lakers don't really do that young developing talent thing
Mhm.
with LeBron there. And Jaime Jaquez was a pretty older, much older rookie. I think he's 20.
24 now. He stayed
Yeah,
all 4 years in college.
so he was 20. He was probably 23 when he got drafted, and he looked pretty good for the Heat. And yeah, you're right. He gets some DMPs now, and he went from playing 28 minutes last year, in his rookie year per game to now only not even 21 minutes a game, and he played only 66 games and barely started when you didn't have Jimmy Butler for pretty much this whole year. So yeah, it's a little weird. The Heat's got a lot of things they'll need to do this off season, but let's talk about the playoffs. I think the last time we recorded it, we teams were finished with game fours. We saw some sweeps. We saw some series end pretty early. I think um, the first series we want to talk about is the Milwaukee Bucks, man.
Mm.
That might have been the most insane ending. If you don't know, the Bucks went to overtime in game 5 with the Pacers. They were up by 7 points with 40 seconds left. And then the Pacers went on an 8-0 run, which included Halliburton scoring the game-winning layup on Giannis, got right by him. And a stat before this, those same stats I just said, when teams were up with 7 points or more with 40 seconds left, teams were 1,609 and 0.
Jesus.
Now they are 1,609 and 1 because that was a big collapse.
Mm.
AJ Green and Gary Trent Jr. kind of just I don't know what happened the last two possessions. I mean, Gary Trent did the second to last possession the Bucks had. Gary Trent tried to do a jump pass, threw it right to the Pacers, and they got an extra possession. And then Kevin Porter Jr. on the last possession, they were just had to shoot free throws. They got it to a guy in AJ Green, who's one of the better shooters in the NBA, and he panics and he throws it to Gary Trent Jr. And Gary Trent Jr. again misses the ball, goes through his legs and out of bounds.
Mm.
What do you think? Well, first of all, what did you feel about the ending of that game? Because Gary Trent had been playing like averaging like 35 points in the last few games of that series. He's the first Bucks player to have two back-to-back playoff games with 8 or more threes made, and that's how their season ends.
Yeah, for it was a joke. It was a choke job. It was a gag job of the highest order. They should have put, the picture of Reggie Miller when he was going like this, going up against the Knicks in Madison Square Garden over Gary Trent Jr.'s head because you can't have those two ridiculously costly possessions. That's just laziness right there. When you just let the ball go out of bounds 2 times and you're just not paying attention to what's going on in the play. Self-awareness and alertness is one of the most crucial things in basketball. So they just choked, they gagged. That loss is obviously on the Bucks, but look who was coaching the team. The guy who has the most blown 3-1 leads as a coach in NBA history, Doc Rivers. He's known for gagging. He's known for choking. And I said this at the last episode. This should be Doc Rivers' last time having a head coaching job in the NBA. He should not coach another second in the NBA. He has gotten too much opportunities living off that 2008 championship ring that he was carried by Ray Allen, Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, and Rajon Rondo. Doc Rivers is an overrated ass head coach. He's not that good. He sucks at making he sucks at making adjustments. Hell, when you have multiple players come out like Blake Griffin, like Paul George, and said, yo, Doc does not make adjustments. James Harden said the exact same thing after they lost. Doc didn't make any adjustments. So you have high caliber Hall of Fame players who continue to say that this head coach, who's supposed to be one of the top 5 coaches, excuse me, in the history of the game doesn't make second half or late game adjustments, that is a sign that you are a terrible coach and you should have no business coaching in the NBA. So Doc Rivers blew it. Didn't call a timeout. I don't think they had any, but you can't even tell your players like, yo, guys, calm down, calm down. None of that. Everybody was just didn't know what they were doing. They looked like the chicken with their head cut off their bodies. It was just a complete mess. And if you're Giannis Antetokounmpo, you're like, hold on. I'm 30, going to be 31 years old. I'm not going to have Damian Lillard for a full year because he torn his Achilles. That's a full year recovery from him. By the time Damian comes back, he's going to be 36 because he's 34, going to turn 35 soon. So you're going to have Dame Lillard until the 2026-2027 season. Giannis is going to be 32. The NBA shelf life is not eternal. Okay, so he's looking at his NBA career, and he's too great of a player to only finish his career with just one ring. He's gonna go down as one of the all-time greatest players of all time. He's already a top 75 player of all time, arguably, not arguably, the greatest Milwaukee Buck in history. And so his performance in game 7, 30 points, 20 rebounds, 13 assists. He gave you a triple double. You couldn't ask Giannis to do anything more. So if I'm Giannis, that's been the big question going on, and we're going to talk about that a little bit into the next subject is what's going to be his future with the Milwaukee Bucks, and he's going to have a serious sit down. Like, hey guys, we got to do some serious changes, or not. Number 34 is going to leave the door, but it was just a complete choke job again. Like I said, Doc Rivers should be fired immediately after that happened. Gary Trent Jr., I would look to trade him if I was the Bucks GM, John Horst. And same thing with Brook Lopez too. They got to do something with that roster because clearly you getting bounced in the first round by the same team. Obviously, injuries were a part of it. It's just okay. You can't do anything with that. Changes need to come, and in a big way, Milwaukee Bucks. But I know I didn't mean to go dabble into our next topic. But again, all that happened. What happened the last play is going to coincide with their future because like, how the hell did you blow that? With up by what was it 3-4 points with like 20 something seconds left. You can't do that. You can't do that at all. It reminds me of the 2013 San Antonio Spurs, or was it no 2012 San Antonio Spurs? One was no 13, excuse me, when they were up against Miami and they blew that game.
Yeah. Back to Doc Rivers. Yeah, and it doesn't help his head assistant coach, Darvin Ham. And we know what he did with the Lakers and how he is it's like a spitting image of Doc Rivers, like with what those players are saying. But yeah, this should 100% be Doc Rivers' last time being a head coach. With the way the NBA goes, I don't think it will be, unfortunately. But maybe with all the head coaches that are out there, like Taylor Jenkins, Mike Malone, a lot of guys that are out there that could be still picked up and will probably be picked up by teams this offseason. Um, it should be his last.
Yeah.
But yeah, you already went into it a little bit, but this is the third year in a row where the Bucks have gotten eliminated in the 1 seed. Giannis has won one playoff game in the last over 1,000 days. His last playoff win was in 2022. This series wasn't necessarily on Giannis. If anything, Giannis is the reason that this was a 5-game series and not a 4-game series. But I right the topic of Giannis leaving has come up a lot, and it's hard because I think we talked about this last week. But Giannis is not a free agent this year. Giannis would need to be traded for if this was to happen this year or the playoff or in the trade deadline. But is there a? I've heard this from a couple other people, which kind of like people like slow down when they're talking about Giannis moving because they talk about if Giannis leaves, he's not going to somewhere where they're competing in that first year because you're going to have to trade for him. You're going to have to give up the farm for him because he's a top 2, top 3 player in the NBA. And there's not really many teams that can just throw away a couple contracts and a bunch of picks unless you are OKC or maybe Houston. OKC shouldn't even look his way because they're almost 70 win team without him. And they don't need him, and they have their core, um, and I think that would just set them back too much, and that would probably include having to trade one of J Dub or Chet, which I don't think the Thunder would want to do. But I don't know. But what I back to what I was saying is Giannis leaving, going to somewhere else, it could be even worse than it is on the Bucks because you look at his teammate Damian Lillard, who spent 12 years in Portland or something like that,
Hmm.
went to Milwaukee because I get to pair up with the best player he's ever played with, the best player Giannis has ever played with, just talent for talent wise, and they were supposed to be looked at as a top two, top three duo in the league, get some crazy playoff success, and they haven't. And honestly, it's been worse in Milwaukee than it was with Portland, or just about the same success wise. So, do you like that? I guess is something that like Giannis. This is going to be something that they are going to have to talk about him with the GM, the owners, his agent, his family, whoever. But I'm on the side of you have to take call. You have to at least listen to deals for him. Like I don't know. How do you feel about this? I know you went into it a little bit, but
Yeah, and that's why you hear teams like the Brooklyn Nets come up in these rumors because they have the most assets in terms of draft picks and young players that would appease the Milwaukee Bucks in a trade for a guy caliber like Giannis Antetokounmpo.
mhm,
And I believe Giannis has some businesses in New York, and he frequently travels to New York to work out with Chris Brickley. So I think that would just be a perfect match. Now he would have to be sold from GM Sean Marks to be okay. What can you kind of competitive team can you build because Giannis is not looking to a rebuild situation. If he does request a trade from the Bucks, like you just mentioned, it's going to be to a win now team, but the team might not win now because they're going to have to give up the farm, the janitor, a piece of land, and
mhm,
maybe a head coach's salary to get him. So Giannis like, hey, if you are going to trade for me, what other players can you attract to New York? Even though you're in the big capital of New York, the market global, it's Brooklyn. It's like it's the little brother to the Knicks. So that's the only thing. Like I said, I mentioned, Giannis really has to be weighing his future because okay, your second best player on the team is out for a whole year. By the time he comes back, he's going to be 36 years old. How is he going to look coming off a major surgery, a major injury like an Achilles at 36 years old? And
mhm.
part of Damian Lillard's game is his explosiveness. He's not going to have that explosiveness this late into his career. Now, maybe he could have a miraculous comeback like Kevin Durant did. He better be, hitting up Kevin Durant, like, yo, how did you come back from his Achilles? And Katie looked probably better post Achilles than pre Achilles injury. But that late, that advanced age, and again, a year wasted in Milwaukee. He's by the time, like I said, by the time Dame comes back, Giannis gonna be 32, Dame's gonna be 36. So their window's probably like this open. So it just sucks. And like I said, outside of Giannis potentially moving somewhere else or requesting a trade, the Bucks they have to do a major roster overall. Brooke Lopez cannot be on this team anymore. He's too
Yep.
damn old. You have some decisions to make on Bobby Portis. Pat Connaughton, I believe, is also going to be a free agent. Gary Trent Jr., what do you do with him? You just traded for Kyle Kuzma, who me and you could have gave better production in playoffs than he did.
Mhm.
And so, after they traded Drew Holiday was really the downfall of this team. But they have some serious decision. John Horst has got a lot to do, a lot to clean it up for this roster going into next year. But we'll just wait and see what can they pull a rabbit out their hat.
Yeah, I think I mean, the only two players to me, like Gary Trent Jr. would have a little bit of value, I think. I don't think he's getting a $20 million contract or anything like
No.
that. I think he gets another maybe 1+1 or something, a team option, something like that somewhere. And then I guess Kyle Kuzma has some value. I don't think Bobby Portis. I think Bobby Portis is pretty much wrapped under contract, and I don't really know who would want him backup center wise because he's not a starting center by any means. And he doesn't even necessarily play. He's more of like a stretch four kind of a thing, a hybrid 4 and 5. But I think Kuzma and Gary Trent are the only two players who would have value in a trade or anything. AJ Green's not going to get you anything. Kevin Porter is not going to get you anything. Brooke Lopez certainly isn't going to get you anything. Torian Prince isn't going to. Torian Prince maybe same boat of Gary Trent, maybe gets a 1+1 somewhere, but even him, it's just rough. So yeah, I don't know what the Bucks do. I agree 100%. They need to either look into getting rid of the big guys up top and when Giannis and stuff, or they need to do a complete 360 on that roster and just like everybody gone.
Yeah, yeah. GM's got some tough decisions to make, man. Very, very tough decisions to make.
Yeah. But going back to some other series that ended, let's start with the Knicks. The Knicks at the pretty much right after we filmed, they played in game 5. They were in Matt I think game 5 was in Madison Square Garden.
Hmm.
Um, and Tom Thibodeau had a huge mistake in that game. For anyone who doesn't know, Josh Hart and Jalen Brunson were at the scorers table for, I think, around the 3.5 minute mark to check back into this game.
Hmm.
They did not get back into the game until like 25 seconds left because Tom Thibodeau only had one timeout left and the ball just didn't go out of bounds. And Tom Thibodeau opted not to use that timeout to get the clutchest player in the league this year back on the floor and one of the best all around role players in the league. And it ultimately ended up in the Pistons winning that game, forcing a game 6. Now we know what happened in that game 6. The Pistons ultimately ended up losing, but the Pistons had a great series. I don't think the Knicks were expecting to be challenged like this by a Detroit Pistons team, um, who they were getting under their skin. They were playing tough, like a young physical team should. And Cade really showed that. Cade, in a couple years, he will be like a star in this league, if not already one. But how do you feel, Knicks fan?
I'm happy. It was a very, very close game.
Mhm,
Shout out to Jalen Brunson for dropping 40. Obviously, he didn't have the best shooting night, shooting 15 or 33 from the field and missing 7 3-pointers. But the one he hit was huge, crossing up Thompson and pretty much, pushing a man, not a man, a Sor Thompson was pretty much out the whole damn frame. So that was a
yeah.
nasty crossover with a dagger three. But yeah, like I said, I knew the Pistons were going to be a pest against the Knicks. This team is up and coming. They got a lot of great players. So you talked about you getting, Cade Cunningham is becoming the face of that franchise. What the Detroit Pistons wanted him to be is going to continue to improve. Malik Beasley had that gag at the end of the game when literally he was wide open and the ball just literally slipped out of his hands, out of his fingertips. So he should
Mhm,
have been walking around with security that night because I know that there was probably a bounty on his head. But
yeah.
that doesn't take away the fact that he had a great year for the Pistons. Asor Thompson is going to be an arguably a top 5 defender in this league alongside his twin brother Ahmed. Jalen Durham, I don't think people understand that's a big dude. I'm
Mhm,
talking about muscles everywhere. He's 6'10, 6'11. He got to be at least like 280, pushing 300 pounds. This dude is jacked. Tobias Harris, veteran presence. Dennis Schroeder, another veteran presence. We're gonna see how Jaden Ivey is gonna look when he comes back from his injury. They got, that bulldozer down below and Isaiah Stewart, Ron
mhm,
Holland, Tim Hardaway Jr. So that they got some players on this team. Now, again, so no GM, no team owner keeps the same roster year to year. So obviously
mhm,
they're gonna have a little bit of decision to make. Do they, move a guy like Isaiah Stewart, who again, when you look at his numbers, his stats, is not eye popping, but he brings that Draymond Green like energy, like that anti-bully ball
mhm.
energy to the Pistons that they need, reminiscent of the bad boy Pistons. But I believe they just signed him to a contract extension. They probably want to
Yeah.
get some more bodies down below, maybe another guard because they were lacking in that guard play. Obviously, the ball was in Kate Cunningham's hands a lot. But if Jaden Ivey was playing in that series, I think it would have been a little bit different. But other than that, like I said, they're in good shape. Again, they got a mix of great young players and solid veteran role players. So they should be back in the same position next year. Then probably make add a piece here or there, but I like the Pistons so far. But again, the Knicks, man, whew, that was a close one. But now we have to face your team, the dreaded
Mhm.
defending NBA champions, the Boston Celtics. I am not
Yes.
looking forward to that series at all.
Um, and I think the thing that people are forgetting the most about this Pistons team and the series in general is that they were missing arguably their second best player in Jaden Ivey for
Yep.
who's been out obviously forever. And that to me, you talk about Isaiah Stewart maybe being moved. Jaden Ivey is it's going to be super intriguing to see what his future is like because I mean, you ask me, I mean, the first couple years of Cade's career, he didn't have much spacing on his team because Jalen Duren's been there since. Asar Thompson, this is his second year there, and he just didn't have adequate offensive, pieces around him to thrive. And he didn't get like a crazy offensive weapon, but he got some decent offensive weapons in a couple spots between, Malik Beasley, Tobias Harris, Tim Hardaway Jr. But I mean, Jaden Ivey is not really I don't know. The way he scores isn't, in my mind, doesn't fit around how this Pistons team played. He seems like he would do similar things to what Cade will do, where he likes to get downhill. He's athletic enough where he can get to the rim, and he's another ball handler, which I think the Pistons needed, and they got great production from Dennis Schroeder in this playoff series as well. But I mean, you talk about maybe moving on. Jaden Ivey is still and before I get to Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duren is 6'10", 250, by the way. So,
Jesus, that's a good dude.
but yeah,
I thought it was pushing 300 pounds.
Duren is, people talk about Duren and how strong he is. But yeah, I mean, Jaden Ivey, he just turned 23 a couple months ago. He's 6'4". In his 30 games this year, he averaged 17, 4, and 4. He actually shot 41% from three this year, but you talk about his first couple years, 33 and then 34%. But and I don't know. I mean, you look at that and you maybe think about getting another, I don't know who that person is, another offensive weapon that's better than a Tobias Harris or something. Maybe you get another guard that can fit nicely, maybe like an Anthony Simons or something from Portland, or like just another guy who can create for himself, and Cade doesn't have the load on him at all times, because one of Cade's flaws this year was his turnovers. He averaged 4.5 turnovers a game in this season. I don't know what this playoff series he had 32 turnovers in 6 games, which is about over 5 a game. Um, but again, when he's the only one controlling the ball, it's kind of hard because the turnover. If he's really the only one turning the ball over, I guess it's not a big issue. But you want to be able to not have all the load on a guy like Cade already in his young career.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I like I said, like an Anthony Simons would be a good player. My thing is, I think like what the Detroit Pistons were missing was a guy that they could just dump it down below in the paint, or like a stretch 4, stretch 5, because that's not really Jalen Duren's game, nor that's that Isaiah Stewart's game. And I feel
Yeah.
like that was their missing. That was
Mhm.
what they were missing. Now let's say if they went after somebody like a Julius Randle type of player who's going to give you 15, 20 points a night, that'll be somebody that will fit well with the offense, because he's going to get his 10, 15 rebounds a night. He's going to get his couple of block shots, and he's going to get, his like a little few assists. That's not really Jalen Duren's game, even though, throughout the series, he had like 21 points, but then he went down to 9 points, 6 points, then 16, 12, and then 7. You need somebody who's a consistent 15, 20 points a night scorer at that 4 position. So I feel like that's why Zaire Stewart comes in, because his contract, I believe, he signed like a 4-year, $60 million deal. You can move him and maybe like a second round draft pick to get somebody, or a couple of other pieces packaged with Isaiah Stewart, to get somebody that has like a Julius Randle type finesse game, or Karl Anthony Towns type finesse game. But I do see your point of them, do needing another guard, because a lot of the ball handling responsibilities was on Cade with Jaden Ivey going down. But like I said, do you tell Dennis Schroeder to step up his game? But that's not really Schroeder's game, because he's more of a defensive guard. So I think if Jaden Ivey dumps come back, and again, he's going to see how he's going to come back. I believe he broke his fibula. How his condition is going to look, which should be fine because he's a young player. But can he handle the ball handling and the offensive load to take that off of Cade Cunningham's plate? I think he should be just fine, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah, I agree. Again, it's going to be super intriguing to see what his future is with this team, but it's whoever's going to fit alongside them the best, and how he will look when he comes back. Because again, he's a pretty I would say his one of his athleticism is one of his good things about Jaden Ivey's games. But
Yeah.
yeah,
But I
good,
do see
great.
your point. If they went after like an Anfree Simons, I think that would definitely fit in terms of because he could also play that like small wing position that they were missing. So
Yeah, because he's not all star caliber, but he's better than like a Tim Hardaway,
yeah, I
and he
agree.
won't be as expensive because again, you're gonna have to re-sign Asar Thompson at some point too. I assume he will get a pretty big contract for what his value is. Jalen Duren, I expect him to just keep getting better too. I fully expect. I don't know what he averaged this year, but I would
Uh,
assume that he would be like a 18 and like 11 guy
he
at some
should.
point.
Yeah, he should. He averaged pretty much almost 12 points and like 10 rebounds a game.
Yeah, I think his scoring could get up to like six, like I said, 16, 17, maybe a game, and I think he'll always be a good rebounder, especially with this roster to where like their four man Tobias Harris isn't like a big four to where he's grabbing 8 a game or something like that. So
Mhm.
but yeah, great series, great season by Detroit. They should, I mean, this is better than anyone could have expected. If
Yes.
you would have told me before the season started that the Pistons would be a 6 seed and really compete with the Knicks in every playoff game, I think we would have called you a liar.
Mhm.
Um, but again, the next series, we'll talk about the one that just ended last night. LA and LA and Denver. It was so competitive. This whole series was competitive. The first 6 games, we get to game 7, and the Clippers just it looked like they were cool. They got to game 7, so they were happy, but they didn't complete the job. James Harden, I don't even think he had 10 points. I know he had like 13 assists, but I think he really only shot the ball like 10 times. I think got like Derek Jones Jr. shot more than him in a game 7, which is not okay. Kawhi didn't have the greatest game. He had a better game than Harden. Jokic, they really did a great job guarding Jokic too in that game. That was probably Jokic one of Jokic's worst games,
Yeah.
and they got blown out, and it was crazy. But I know you have something you'd like to say about James Harden, so
Yeah, we should never ever have this discussion or compare James Harden to the great Dwayne Wade ever again. That is such a disrespect and a slap in the face to Dwayne Wade. James Harden has now lost 4 game 7s with 4 different teams. 4 game 7s with 4 different teams. And when it was do or die situation, and these are the game 7s
yeah,
he averaged just around like 14 points a game, right? And like maybe like 5 or 6 assists. He doesn't get the job done. He is a choke artist. Just how the Milwaukee Bucks blew that game 5 in Indiana. That's exactly what James Harden is. Okay, one guy has 3 championships and won his first ring and finals MVP his 3rd year into the league. While another guy that you guys are trying to make comparable to Dwayne Wade still doesn't even have one ring. And the closest he came to that was a decade plus ago with the OKC Big Three when they were young. After that, James Harden hasn't even sniffed close to the NBA Finals. Every single time. And listen, the one thing about also well too, Dwayne Wade's not a quitter like James Harden. Everywhere James Harden goes, he quits. He quit 3 different teams. Obviously, you know what happened with the Oklahoma City Thunder. Salary cap, happened. They should have kept him. They moved him on. He was the man in Houston. Houston acquiesced to every demand that he wanted him to. And he said, you know what, get me up out of here. I don't think this team's going to win a championship. Get me, go, I want to go in Brooklyn. Go play with my boy KD, have a reunion with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. That didn't work out. You quit. You asked to go trade to Philly. They trade you to Philly. You quit after 1 full year in Philly and you were playing alongside the MVP of the time in that league. You quit and then you asked to go to the Clippers. And same thing, every team James Harden goes to, their ceiling is a first round exit. And if it goes to a game 7, you know he's not going to show up because that's exactly who James Harden is. He is a choke artist. 7 points in a game 7, 7 points. You had 13 assists, but damn, 7 points? Come on, man.
yeah.
Come
Yeah,
on,
and I
ridiculous.
vaguely remember the when the game 7 with the Bucks and the Nets when it like you said it was Katie Harden. Kyrie wasn't playing because that was the whole time where Kyrie was kind of sitting out and doing all whatever over in Brooklyn. But that was the game that Durant had like 50, like a 50-point triple double. James Harden had 5 points and he played like 45 minutes in that game. But yeah, it sucks, man. Harden is one of those guys that, especially for me, like I wish he could do some winning. I like or some real postseason winning. He's a great regular season player. He's had teams where he's been 60 wins or more. One of the best isolation scorers of all time, but man, those when it gets late into the playoffs, whether it's a semifinals, conference semifinals, or even a like a game 7 like we talk about, he's just not the guy. He's just not the guy. And I also remember when he was in Philly when Tatum dropped 51 in game 7 for Celtics and Philly, he didn't have a great game then either. But yeah, it's just rough, especially for the fans, the Clipper fans who got flown out by Steve Ballmer. I think he paid was it 130 fans or something like that to
Something
come
like that. Yeah.
to and be the wall, even though they were in Denver, and they had to sit through that massacre, and
Hmm.
just a rough way for the Clippers to end their season because they looked like they could have. They were so promising. They did so good against Denver too, but they fumbled at the end.
Yeah. And like you mentioned too, like they did a great job with Jokic. Jokic didn't have a great game. He almost had a triple double, but 16 points for Jokic, that's not his norm. Aaron Gordon was arguably their best player scoring wise because he had 22 points. Michael Porter had 15. Russell Westbrook. When are the NBA media and these dumbass fans going to give Westbrook his flowers? He
Yeah,
literally, you can make argument, he literally won them the game because, okay, yes, 16 points for Westbrook, 5 and 5, but energy came off the bench, had a couple of steals. Remember when he dunked and he got that
I
technical?
love the
That
tech.
got yeah, I love the tech, and it got the fans, it got the players riled up. Russell Westbrook was a reason why they won that game 7.
Yeah,
Jokic didn't have a great game. It was because of Russell Westbrook, and we need to start giving. I do, but I'm talking about these dumbass troll
yeah.
fans. They need
Hmm.
to start giving Russell Westbrook his respect because whenever he decides to call it quits and retire, he's automatically a first ballot Hall of Famer with or without a championship ring. But yeah, like I said, Denver Nuggets, shout out to them. We knew that this series was going to go back and forth. We called it minimum 6 games and went all the way to 7. And now they got a date with the Oklahoma City Thunder. That's their reward. But, with the Clippers, man, I want to ask you this: like, what are the Clippers going to do? Because this is the third straight year that they got bounced out the first round in the playoffs, and Kawhi Leonard's only getting older. He doesn't have the best knee. Me and you have a better knee than him. James Harden is a habitual choke artist when it comes down to clutch time in Game Sevens if the series gets extended. Tyronn Lue is a great coach, but this is the ceiling for the Los Angeles Clippers. They have a good regular season, but when it comes down to playoffs, they're going home in the first round. So if you're Steve Ballmer, if you're the head coach of if you're the GM, excuse me, of the Clippers, what do you do with this roster?
If I'm being honest, um, and I'm trying to look here. So honestly, I look at starting to develop young talent because if I'm being honest, I look at their roster, right? I can't. Kawhi's not going anywhere. I can't. I don't think right. Like I think Kawhi is going to stay here. I don't think anyone is going to trade meaningful things for a guy like Kawhi who he had a healthy second part of the season and this playoff run, but it's going to come back around at some point. Sadly, that's just how it works with these players. James Harden, I don't think James Harden is somebody like I don't think there's a really a spot for James Harden to go. I think mostly every team has their guards that they like, and if they don't, they're like a Brooklyn or a Washington who are going to have a high draft pick and probably fix that issue. Zubac, you're not getting rid of Zubac. And then honestly, the team, I don't think we see much roster turnaround with this Clippers team going into the offseason just because I think it was successful season for the Clippers. They did better than what I would have thought at the beginning of the year, but there's just not a lot that I don't think you can move or would want to move because again, Chris Dunn gonna be an all defensive player this year, most likely. Derek Jones, good pickup. Norman Powell had almost a career year, and there's just not too much that I look at and I say a lot of teams are going to want between the guys up top. And then I think it's also a thing where the Clippers, I don't think they're going to move them if I'm being honest. So I think they start maybe getting some young talent in the door. They've got a couple guys at the end of that bench like Kobe Brown, Jordan Miller, who again don't get a lot of burn, but I'm looking at their picks and their first round pick for this year via OKC. OKC is probably going to take that because LA's pick is going to be better than what OKC's is. So they're not going to have a pick this year. Uh, they don't have one for 2026 for a first rounder. In 2027, OKC holds the right to swap in 2027. And then in 2029, Philly holds the right to swap. And then they've got a 2030 and a 2031. But that's 5-6 years away. They don't own it, and they don't own draft picks unless a team opts not to swap with them. And if they do, it's going to be maybe the 30th pick or something like 29th pick because the teams that are going to be swapping with you are like the Thunder, who were just it was just the best team in the league. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. That's a tricky team. That's a trickier team than what I think people think. People talk about the Suns and the Bucks, how they're going to look. I don't know. The Clippers, they've got they've got a little bit to do.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like you said, definitely they don't have much draft compensation.
Mhm.
Maybe a guy like Cam Christie, Max Christie's brother, they could probably develop him. Maybe a Drew Eubanks. Do you possibly maybe move a Drew Eubanks? Maybe you possibly move a Nicholas Batum, who gave you a somewhat solid year. You mentioned Chris Dunn is going to be an all defensive team. Do they maybe just say, we got Ben Simmons for a pack of Lay's chips and a brownie? Do you just let him go? But like you said, they're not going to get rid of Norman Powell. Zubac, Leonard, and Harden is there to stay. But that team doesn't move the league in terms of being a serious title contending team. So they might, like you said, might have to look to their bench. Cam Christie, hey, we're gonna develop you to be perennial all-star, probably. Kobe Brown, same thing, They got Jordan Miller. So they maybe make like one or two changes. You probably won't see Patty Mills back on the team next year. But
Yeah,
other than
I
that,
don't
like you
think
said,
I honestly don't think they're far though. Like
yeah.
I mean, again, the biggest thing that weighs on them is not something they can fix in the offseason or through a trade. It's Kawhi Leonard. And they have no control over that. That's up to Kawhi Leonard and his body and how it treats him. And that's an unfortunate way that your past 6 years have been determined by almost. But you paid Kawhi Leonard, you didn't pay Paul George, so you gotta have you've got to believe in him. You can't just get rid of him like you did Paul George because nobody's trading for that contract.
Yeah, true. Also, you got to mention James Harden as well. If it goes to clutch time, let's say if the Clippers make a miraculous run and they go to the NBA Finals one year, do you trust James Harden in late game situations if the series gets extended to 5, 6, 7 games? I don't, and he has shown a long track record of not to be a proven trustworthy superstar that he is. So that's also nothing that lynches on it.
Yeah, that's just it's a rough. They've got things to figure out.
Yeah.
Steve Ballmer, man, he's gonna he'll I think they'll do a couple small things in the off season, but I wouldn't expect anything big from them
So their ceiling is just a first round exit every single year, maybe second round exit, but that's about it.
unless you're restarting. But again,
Yeah.
I mean, you, the players that you have, it's not like normally when teams restart, they're like I don't know when a team restarts, they're like Portland. Portland when they had Damian Lillard that off season, they were like, okay, we have the third overall pick, we have Shaden Sharp, we have Anthony Simons. Like they already have players to kind of start their like rebuild and backtrack. Starting a rebuild from literally scratch because you don't have any, like you said, Cam Christie or like the couple players I named that you probably don't even know who they are. Like it's going to be hard to just go back into a rebuild. So, yeah, I think the Clippers are stuck a little bit. I wouldn't expect them to be as high of a seed next year that they were this year. Again, unless Kawhi has a healthy season, he plays 75 games and, something like that. But I think that's a little too much to ask for at this point.
Yeah, agree, agree.
But our last series that we have, Golden State and Houston. Houston was down 3-1. They forced a game 7. And before we get too in depth with this, I wanted to go on a little rant. I'm sick of Draymond Green. And like Draymond Green, man, has he has to have the longest leash I've ever seen. The stuff he does like the stuff he does is ridiculous, and he just keeps doing it. He keeps testing the referees, and man, the refs you've got to keep your cool when you're refing a Golden State game, because you're either getting a tech from Draymond in one game, or you're getting a flagrant in the other game. Whether you're throwing Jalen Green to the ground by their head, or you're getting face to face every other possession, or you're complaining about a play that you're not even involved in to the referees. I mean, and this isn't even just about this series. This could go back to the use of Nurkic stuff, the Sabonis stuff from 2 years ago when they were playing the Kings. Hell, it could go back to when he kicked Steven Adams in 20, what was that, 16 or something like that. Like he just the things he does, and it baffles me that he just I don't know. It baffles me that he still is doing what he does, and that the NBA isn't doing more to it. I would have thought when he had went through all the suspensions last year from punching Yusuf Nurkic, or I don't remember the other player he got involved with to give him his second suspension, but I thought that would have been eye opening for Draymond, because the Warriors sucked last year. They didn't do any. I don't even think they made it out the play in, or if they did, they got eliminated in the first round.
They got eliminated for. I think they faced the Lakers where they got swept. Not swept, but it was like a 4-2.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Anyways, they that was a huge blow to their season. And Draymond, I respect what I know what Draymond does on the court. I know what he meant to the 4 rings that him, Clay, and Steph have, and what he does. I can't even say what he does on the court. The basketball impact he has is known. It's respected. It should be by NBA players, NBA media, fans, whoever. But the other stuff, I don't know. You could write a drama movie about it. I'm and there's not many players that would get me like this, because I don't like to necessarily just talk about everything negative in the sport, because I think that's what everyone does. But man, I don't know. I just don't know with Draymond anymore, man. Because he's not getting the memo from the league, and he's not like it's gonna get bad at some point. Whether it's this year, next year, maybe when he retires and he's only doing his damn podcast. I just don't know. It's ridiculous the things that he does and gets away with.
Yeah, I'm gonna kind of second what you say too. Draymond is his own worst enemy, and he needs to be humbled. And you thought that him getting suspended and losing all that money by his suspension after punching Yusuf Nurkic straight in the face, and his other antics that have cost the Golden State Warriors arguably 2 championships, would have went through his thick ass skull, but it doesn't. And like again, if he didn't have Steph, he didn't have Clay, he didn't have KD, he wouldn't have 4 championships. He would have just been another average regular role player, triple singles. That's what they call him. So Draymond Green literally is NBA's biggest prick, in my opinion. He talks a lot of shit that like he's some great player. Like eventually, yes, he's gonna be a first ballot Hall of Famer because of his accomplishments, his
Yeah,
rings, and the fact that he has a gold medal. But he would not have those accolades, those accomplishments without playing with Hall of Fame players, like as I mentioned, Steph, Clay, and KD, and playing underneath a Hall of Fame coach and Steve Kerr. So yes, it's Draymond Green, like I said, has the shortest slash longest leash in the NBA. He could get away with stuff, pretty much premeditated murder, and it still be fine. You would thought that his antics of him getting suspended and losing millions of dollars would have humbled him, but it seemed like nothing is going to humble Draymond Green. He is who he is.
Yeah, I don't know. Again, you said it perfectly. He's his worst. He's his worst enemy, and again, nothing to what his basketball skill is because he's impactful. He's one of the best defenders of this generation. When you talk about just not even numbers wise, but just impact wise, like it's noted. Everyone knows, but it's the other stuff that makes it. It honestly is a reason that makes me dislike the Warriors a little bit. So,
Yeah, agree.
but back to the basketball in this series. The Warriors got blown out in game 5. That was maybe the one of the worst games I've seen this year by the Warriors. They completely gave up. Steve Kerr took out the starters halfway through the third. Like, I mean, sure, it was a blowout, but we've seen blowout teams come back from blowouts before. It's happened in this playoffs alone, But um, and then him not playing Jonathan Kaminga and Tracy Jackson Davis. We've talked about that. I don't know how many times in the past few episodes, but everyone was like, "Oh, they lost game 5 so they can win at home." They didn't win at home, and they're going back to game 7, and they might blow a series that they were favored in, even though they are the lower seed. They've got all the experience in the world, and according to a lot of these people, experience is the only thing that matters. And I'm here to tell you it's not. Maybe it matters in the finals. Maybe it matters for a couple players like that. But when you're the Rockets and you do it by team, I don't know, man. You got guy. It's not like this is a team of straight 22-year-olds. They got Fred VanVleet, who's a champion, a one-time All-Star, and was one of the most impactful players for that Toronto year. Dylan Brooks, we know what he did with Memphis. He was one of he was their best defender. He was impactful, even though he's a hothead himself too. But that's what a young team needs. And I mean, Steven Adams, and how do you feel about them doing the hack a Shack to Steven Adams?
I mean, that's just good strategy because Steven Adams is not really known as a great free throw shooter. Over that, obviously he'll make some of it, but I mean, he had like what 15 points last game, right? No, 17 points. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
he was 9 for 16 from free throws, and Warrior fans will talk about the free throw discrepancy. Um you're resolving into hack a Shack because you don't want to play defense, and you're just saying, "Oh, I hope Steven Adams missed." And granted, he is a 53% free throw shooter. He is not a great free throw shooter, but he's not Shaq bad.
yeah, no,
He's not he's and you know what they do when they do that hack a Shack stuff to Steven Adams? They sub in Alperen Sengun, they sub in
hmm
Jabari Smith, and they put them down on the block. And guess what? Steven Adams is either going to make it or he's going to miss, and Alperen Sengun or Jabari Smith is going to just get the rebound and go back up and either make the layup or get fouled so then they can shoot free throws.
hmm
So I think that's lazy. I don't think that that's a good thing the Warriors should be doing. Um, Maybe you do that when they're up by like 4 points with like a minute left. Maybe that's when you do it. But when you're doing it in the middle of the third quarter or the
yeah,
second quarter, it's like, man, I mean, because Steven Adams played 30 minutes that game, and he was one of the best. He's been one of the best bench players, even though you would think of Steven Adams in 2025 would not be. If I was being honest, I thought Steven Adams by this point would be how DeAndre Jordan is or Tristan Thompson is. They're on the roster. They play maybe during garbage time. They're still good rebounders, but they don't have much impact anymore. But that's not the case with Steven Adams. So,
yeah.
um, how who do we have in Game 7?
I'm gonna have to go with the Houston Rockets because remember the last time when the Golden State Warriors were up 3-1, they blew it to the Cavs and that cost them a championship. So I don't trust this team when they're up 3-1, especially they let it go to game 7. Like you said, Steve Kerr called it in towels for whatever reason. Um, Draymond does Draymond's things, but shout out to the Houston Rockets, more especially, Fred VanVleet, who had 29 points. We talked about Steven Adams, and again, he got sent to the line like what 16, 17 times. He had 17 points and he played 30 over 30 minutes. Jalen
Mhm.
Green, Jalen
Yeah.
Green literally almost single-handedly costed the Houston Rockets this series because he is so damn inconsistent. 12 points in game six, and we talked about it again, sound like a broken record. If the Houston Rockets have a chance of beating the Warriors, we talk about use versus experience. Jalen Green is going to be the X factor, and he's been the non-factor. He has been the
Yeah.
non-factor. If I'm email you, Doc, I'm like, yo, Jalen Green, don't even play in this game because pretty much what you giving us is what me and you could give. We could get better performances than Jalen Green. But if Fred VanVleet, if he can even get you 20 points in game seven, Sengun's going to get you usual 20-25. Thompson had 14. If he can replicate his performance in game six to game seven, same thing with Steven Adams, can replicate his performance from game six to game seven. I think that the Rockets will be fine. They have home court advantage, so I think that I'm going to give the edge to the Houston Rockets. Steph Curry, only offense that you could really rely on for the Warriors is Butler the third and Steph Curry. I mean, Buddy Hill, 17 points, a big donut. Kaminga's not going to be on his team next year. He's
No.
going to request a trade because Steve Kerr's playing with his minutes. And when your turns to playing with somebody's minutes as young as that, you play with his money and his food. And Kaminga's
Yeah.
looking to get paid, and he's much more of a valuable player to be playing 1 to 2 minutes a game in the series. That's just unbelievable. But so, yeah, I'm gonna go with the Houston Rockets game seven. I think momentum is on their side, and I think after making those substitutions, Golden State just called it quits. So I'm gonna go with the Rockets to win it. I think it'll be close though.
Yeah. And before I get back to Jalen Green, I mean, yeah, Amen Thompson, the Amen Thompson on Curry been great. In game five, he had, I think, 5 steals, 3 blocks. It was one of the best defensive games he's had. And Asar Thompson on Jalen Brunson. Like these Thompson twins, they're gonna be trouble, man, when they get to where they are. I think next year they will both be like playing 30 minutes a game. Like Amen, we've seen Amen has pretty much played at least 30 minutes a game all year, but Asar Thompson is slowly getting to that to where he missed the first part of this season with blood clots as well. Um, and he was not, he wasn't he had a slower start than Amen, but they are doing the exact same things, man. I mean, they are you would talk about uh identical twins. They are the most you can't get any more, the same. And I saw a thing someone tweeted out saying, "Man, when the Thompson twins played 1v1 versus each other growing up, those games must have been 3 hours long or something because
Mm-hmm.
like just defensively and what they, lackluster on offense, you can say, but still. But anyways, but yeah, Jalen Green, I thought of the avenue you were talking about where it's like, yeah, maybe we don't start Jalen Green, or maybe he plays only 20 minutes in this game seven, but you still have to think about the idea of Jalen Green. We saw in game two, he had almost 40. Jalen Green can do that. It just, again, his consistency is what kills him. We've talked about this so much as well. But you have to think of what Jalen Green could do, and that's worth keeping him in the starting lineup and playing 30 or more minutes in this game seven. So, but yeah, I would love to see him take off, man. I want for my prediction, I would want the Houston Rockets to win, but I don't know if the Golden State Warriors are going to blow that. When you have great playoff players, as in Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler, and even Draymond, I don't know. I don't know if they. I don't know if the Warriors blow this one. And when I was talking about this on my channel, I said I think this game is whoever wins is probably going to win by a blowout. Like I think if Houston wins this game, that means they did what they did in game 5, I think. And I think if the Warriors win, that means they won by a blowout too. I just don't know if this game is going to be close, even though most of these games have been close. But I I hate to say it because that would mean both our game sevens in the first round were blowouts, but I think we might have another blowout for game seven. I
Wow.
just I just don't know who it's for. But that's just how I see it. Like, because I don't know. It maybe if it is a close game, then it is going to Golden State. But I don't know if Houston can do a game seven with keeping it close down to the last possession, because I think that's when the Warriors can take over and will take over, when you have a guy like Steph and who can shoot lights out, and then Jimmy who can get you 15 free throws a game.
I'm surprised because you had the Rockets winning this
I
series, and
do.
now you
I want the
jumped
Rockets to
off the
win.
bandwagon, man.
I think I'm not jumping off the bandwagon. I want the Rockets to win. I think both of these teams could win, but it's so hard picking a winner for me because they are the complete opposite. And it's not a bad thing, but the Warriors are this older, experienced, um, better offensive team, while the Rockets are the younger, more hungry, good defensive team, and their offense isn't as on par, I would say, with the Warriors. But it's just hard because again, they're total opposites, and it's just who's gonna is the defense gonna be better for the Rockets, or is the offense gonna be better for the Warriors?
I've got my money on the defense being better for the Rockets than the
And
Warriors. So
I hope you're right. I hope you're right.
that's where I'm gonna. But like I said, you can't. I do not trust Jalen Green playing no more than 20 minutes a game, because 3 of 11 shooting in Game 6, 12, 7 points, 9 points, and you're supposed to be a second best player on this team. It's not gonna get it done. And I'll talk about this as well too. I think that the Rockets have slowly started to give up a Jabari Smith Jr. I mean, 8 points in Game 6, and you're a top three. You were the third overall pick in the 2022 draft, and that's the type of production you give to this team. And we talk about in the series again, 8 points, 7 points, 6 points. We know that he's not an offensive minded guy, but at least can you get some rebounds? He doesn't even get rebounds. So I think that eventually they have been slowly, with the amount of minutes he's playing, 18 minutes, 19 minutes, 15 minutes, 22 minutes, they have slowly started to kind of given up on Jabari Smith, or maybe this is just a mismatch for them. But again, you're a guy who's 6'10". You should be easily, I would say easily dominated, but you should be take care of your business against guys like Moses Moutier, Draymond Green in the power forward position. Hell, even a Kevon Looney, because you're younger, you're more athletic than him. So I don't know what's going on with that,
I,
but
yeah, I understand what you're saying, but you got to think that Jabari Smith started out this year as the starting power forward alongside Sengun, and then he got hurt. Amen Thompson came into the starting lineup, and the way that he played, Amen never should be coming off the bench again. Amen is too valuable to have coming off the bench now. And who does that mean goes to the bench when he comes back? Jabari Smith. So Jabari Smith's been coming off the bench, and he has been his whole young career to me. He has always been looked at for me as a power forward center, as a big guy who I think he could play center, but he's more of a power forward. But I think, especially in these playoffs and the second half of this season, they've used him more as a power forward, small forward, to where he's playing more of like a wing instead of a big man. Because again, they're running these lineups where you have him, Alperen Sengun, and Steven Adams all on the floor together. And hell, they're even doing it with those three, including Tari Eason on the floor. So sometimes he's looked at as the small forward or shooting guard on the court, and he's really had to try and be this offensive creator that he really was never looked at to be, because he was looked at as more of a big man to me. So I give him a little pass. I do agree. I think that Jabari Smith, out of everybody on this team, is the most likely to not be on this team anymore. In whether that's next year, whether that's this offseason, the trade deadline, whatever the Rockets decide to do, I think he will probably be the first to go. But while we wrapped up pretty much we wrapped up pretty much the first round, but we could preview pretty much all of the second round if we want.
mhm.
And here is the bracket. If you don't know, while we're here, let's talk about the Timberwolves versus either Golden State or Houston. um I said when I talked about the Timberwolves, I was wrong because we both picked the Lakers, I think, to win that series. And I don't know if I speak for both of us. I think I picked the Lakers simply because of the two up top.
Mhm.
The Timberwolves have the much better team. That was obviously showcased in this series when they handled them in five. But and I know we had the right we picked the Rockets to have a Cinderella run to the Western Conference Finals, beating both the Warriors obviously in the first round and then the Lakers in the second round. I'm switching. I think the Timberwolves will be in the conference finals.
Yeah, I'm switching right there with you. I got them also as well in the
Mhm.
Western Conference Finals because this team overall really did surprise me, and you mentioned it a lot of times too that this is not a six seed. Like yes, their record says that they're a six seed, but they do not play like a six seed. And first of all, shout out, we gotta give a shout out to Rudy Gobert. That
Yes.
clinching game, game five, boy, he almost had 30 points. He had like what 24, 25 some
Yep.
points, something like that, and over 20 rebounds. If
Yep.
the Frenchman is dominating like that, along with Anthony Edwards doing his thing, Randall doing his thing, Nas Reed coming off the bench doing his thing, along with DiVincenzo, oh, watch out. But I got the Timberwolves again going to the Western Conference Finals, no matter who they beat, whether it's the Rockets or the Warriors in the second round. I think Minnesota is just overall betterly equipped. Again, they just give a matchup nightmare because if Rudy Gobert is going to be, a slouch on defense, they could just put in Nas Reed, and then he'll take his place as well too. And Jaden McDaniels has been a pest on the
Hooping.
defensive end. He has been balling. So give that man credit. I don't know if he signed an extension with the Timberwolves, if he didn't, but if he did,
Yeah, he's got a
he
lot of money on his name.
yeah, he's gonna be due for a huge, massive contract
Yeah.
extension. So and I would like to see Rob Dillingham play a little bit more. Obviously, again, it's the playoffs. You want to play, your vets. Mike
Uh,
Conley has been playing, but yeah, man, Minnesota, they're just a matchup nightmare. So I agree with you. No matter who they play in the second round, whether it's the Warriors, the Rockets, they're beating them. I think it's gonna go maximum 6 games, 5, 6 games, no more. It's not gonna go seven.
yeah, I think um with Dillingham, I think he's hurt.
Oh, he's hurt. Oh, I had no idea. Okay, I thought they just
Yes,
weren't
the
playing him.
ankle. He is
Okay.
hurt. So that's why. I don't know how much he would have played anyways, but
Mhm.
yes, he's hurt. But I think this would be such a great second round if we see Timberwolves Rockets, man.
Mm.
It's going to be a defensive like night. Like it is going to be such a defensive series, I think, if we see that. And I can't wait. But yes, I think we're both in agreement. Timberwolves. I think back to the Western Conference Finals, which I don't know if a lot of people predicted for how their year went, trading Cat for Randall and then not having the greatest start or really end to the season. But
Mhm.
all right, other Western Conference matchup. Um, Nuggets, good job winning Game 7. Uh Thunder in. See, this is hard because, and I'm going to talk about this for another series too. The Thunder, I don't think the Thunder aren't going to sweep, but I don't think the Thunder are going to go to 7. So I think it Thunder in. I'm going to say 6.
Okay, Thunder and 6. I agree with that too. Like I said, not going to disrespect the Nuggets, even though they're not the same team that they
Mhm,
were without Mike Malone, but they still do have the best player in the game. That's Jokic. There's obviously going to be a battle of regular season MVPs. So
mhm.
I'm going to also give the edge to the Thunder. Again, the Nuggets defensively, they have just been an awful team defensively. I mean, my God, they're just letting teams blow by them and score. But yeah, I think that they will do a good job handling Jokic. They won't obviously, slow him down, but they're trying to limit the best that they can. You're gonna see OKC's gonna throw a whole bunch of bodies at Jokic, obviously starting with Chet and then Hartenstein, and then maybe they might go small, probably put Caruso on him with some place because Caruso is another great defender with a strong body. So they got a lot of bodies that they could throw at Jokic. Maybe you might see Jalen Williams play, who's a power forward. Maybe Aaron Wiggins can play. Maybe they might throw Luke Dorsey. They got a lot of bodies that they could throw at Jokic. But yeah, 6 games. I don't think it doesn't go more than that. I think OKC handles their business.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm close to saying 5 because you talking about what the Thunder can throw at Denver on defense. I don't know what Denver's going to throw at OKC defensively.
Yeah,
Who's guarding Shea?
yeah,
Like Christian, I mean, I think Christian Brown had been defending Harden for that last series mainly, but honestly, he's more athletic at this point than James Harden is. You might have to go like mm, I would say Aaron Gordon, but Aaron Gordon would probably have to guard like Chet if I'm being honest. Because I don't think you're not putting Jokic on Chet because
mm-mm,
of what Chet can do to space the floor. And when the minutes that Hartenstein's not in the game, I would assume you're putting Jokic on like Caruso or like Lou Dort to just sit in the corner and not really be too engaged. But
mm-mm.
and then you talk about J Dub. Like, I mean, Michael Porter Jr. is going to have to do something in this series, I think, and he's been banged up. Either that or Westbrook. Westbrook's going to
Yeah,
have to have his time on J Dub or something, and even Shea.
yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. So I'm close to saying Thunder in five again because of the defense, but I don't know. I just don't know.
So you
Um,
leaning towards gentleman sweep. I don't blame you.
yeah. Cavs Pacers. This is another series where I don't think the Cavs could sweep. I don't think they will though. But this isn't gonna go to seven. I would say Cavs in. I might have to say the same, like Cavs in five. Honestly, the Pacers are a good team. Although, actually, I'll give it six. The Pacers are a good team. They're deep enough to where they can put up a fight with the Cavs, but I think the Cavs should be able to handle them because they have the personnel, I think, to where they can handle it. You know, Siakam and Turner down low and stretching the floor. Um, I mean, Tyrese Halliburton, I assume you throw like Isaac Okoro on him. Like one of the wing, like right, one of the small forwards have to guard him because you don't want Garland or something guarding him. But I think the same. Cavs in six.
Chewbacca, Waka Flocka, Serge Ibaka. Cavs in five. Cavs in five. Yeah, this is gonna be a gentleman sweep.
Okay.
Just a matchup nightmare, especially you talk about the Twin Towers of Mobley, Allen. Donovan Mitchell has been playing out of his mind. DeAndre Hunter, who could come in, is an excellent wingman for them, exactly what the doctor ordered. Max Strus could come in, knock down some shots. Ty Jerome, same thing. This team is they're just better equipped compared to Indiana. So you can easily shut down. I would say easily shut down, but Tyrese Halliburton, you could limit him to underscoring 20 points a game
Yeah, for sure.
with the right defensive schemes. And then you're not going to trust Miles Turner to give you like a 20.9 because that's not his game. Siakam is going to probably give you 20, but other than that, Obi Thompson is not a 20 point a night scorer. Same thing with Benedict Mathurin, Aaron Neesmith. So I Cavs at five. Like I said, they'll handle this series pretty quickly. Pacers get one game when the Cavs are slacking, but other than that, man, Cavs in five.
All right. All right, Knicks fan, let's hear it.
Celtics in six, man. I mean, and I'm being generous. Maybe the Knicks get one game, but I wouldn't be surprised. This is another a gentleman sweep. We saw what happened when the Knicks and the Celtics played in the regular season. I believe what the Celtics swept them in the regular season series,
Yep.
like what 3-0, 4-0. Celtics are just better matchup. It's a matchup nightmare for the Knicks. They thought them getting Mikal Bridges and resigning OG Anunoby and getting Karl Anthony Towns, especially, would address their wing problem because they're trying to match it with the wings of Boston. But Tatum is too much, Brown is too much, Holiday's too much. Hell, they don't even need Tatum and Brown to have good games because White could go off for 30, as we saw in the last series. Peyton Pritchard could come off the bench and give you 16 20 points a night, and he could just explode and catch fire, especially from the 3-point line.
Mhm.
Say Porzingis, when he's balling, he's healthy. He's also a matchup nightmare. So yeah, Celtics in six, man. Team is just again better powered, and they're just a matchup nightmare for the Knicks. So sorry, Knicks fans. I know you guys are delusional thinking that we're gonna go to the NBA Finals and winning and shut down the streets of Times Square, but we're going up against the defending NBA champions, and the Knicks literally structured their roster to go
Yeah.
up against the defending champions. Pretty much have a carbon copy, but you can't, copy and outdo the original. So I got to give the Celtics in six. They're going to handle the Knicks in 6 games.
Yeah, I agree. Celtics at 6. I don't normally take the regular season matchups too serious. I mean, I know 4-0 against the top three. Like they were 10-0 versus the top three seeds in the league, but playoffs are different. Jalen Brunson he's been hooping. Now granted, the Celtics do have pretty much whatever they need defensively to throw at Jalen Brunson, but yeah, I agree. I think the Celtics can take the Knicks. The Knicks are good enough to they're not going to get swept. Like there's no way out of all those series, like between the Thunder and the Cavs, like there I could potentially see those maybe being like the Cavs I could see being a sweep. The Thunder I could maybe see being, 5 or maybe even sweeping depending on how Denver's defense is. I think this is the series that is the least likely to be swept other than that Timberwolves and whoever series, but my question is who would you want to guard Tatum?
That's a good question. I probably throw OG Ananobi on him.
Yeah, okay.
He's yeah.
Yeah,
I'm throw
because I
OG.
think the problem that the Knicks had, especially in the regular season, is they had Mikal on Tatum.
Yeah, no, no.
And Mikal, to me, his defense is becoming slightly overrated to a point because he's still a plus defender, but there was a point where he was like a top 5 in defensive player of the year, like in Phoenix and stuff like that. And I don't think that he's that same defender. He's still a plus defender. He still has his moments, but I think OG, when you talk about the size, beats him on the size. I think he's a few inches taller. He's definitely stronger than what Mikal is. Just you can see that just by looking at their frames.
Mhm.
Um, and I just think OG like strength and defensively is better. But my thing is, Tatum isn't really the wing that you look at to worry about strength. Brown is the one who is built like a tank, like even more than
Mhm.
what Tatum is, and he loves getting downhill. That's the only reason I asked, because if you have OG on Tatum, that means you pretty much have to. Although it'll probably be Josh Hart. Now that I think about it,
Yeah.
Josh Hart will probably be on Jalen Brown then. But I don't know. I think that Porzingis needs to step up in this series, though. Porzingis did not have a great series in the Magic series. Um, he tried to do his contested mid range. That's pretty good. He really wasn't hitting from three. Um, and we need Drew. Drew needs to come back. The Celtics have been pretty banged up throughout that first round. Drew missed the last 3 games. Uh, Porzingis got stitches in his head because Bitadze threw a shoulder at him.
Mhm.
Tatum missed a game. Brown's been dealing with a bone bruise in his knee. And I'm not saying this as an excuse, but I'm glad that we handled the Magic in 5, so we got a couple extra days of rest while the Knicks series went a little longer. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think that'll be another good series though. Boston, New York. It's always great no matter what sport it is. So,
I
but
agree.
but yeah,
I
that
agree.
that was our second round preview. Now we've got some news. Coach Pop is no longer coaching. If you don't know, Greg Popovich early in the season had a stroke to where he couldn't come back to coaching. I think he was expected to make a full recovery. And then I think maybe a couple months ago, he got rushed out of a restaurant or something by an ambulance at some point. I don't
Mhm.
know if that was another stroke. I don't know if it was some other complications, but
I think it
Greg
was another mild stroke. This is
Okay.
another one. Yeah.
He is going to take a front office job for the Spurs. After 36 years of being a coach in the NBA.
Hmm.
I've got basically from the age of when he turned 40 until this year, where he's 76, he had been assistant coaching somewhere. His first 7 years, he was an assistant coach for the Spurs and then the Warriors. And then basically in 1996, he hired himself to be the head coach of the San Antonio Spurs, and it was maybe one of the best front office decisions of all time. I mean, just his accolades again. He coached 2,291 games, the most, I believe, the most all time. He has the most wins by a coach all time with a 62%, like 62 win percentage, which is insane. He's a five-time champ, three-time coach of the year, 17-time coach of the month, ranked one of the 15th greatest coaches ever in 2022. He was the one seed 13 times. He won over 50 games 19 times and including 18 years in a row, which is insane. He's had six times where he's won 60 games in his career, and he has the infamous streak of making the playoffs 22 years in a row
Mm.
at one point. So, I mean, if you ask me, the greatest coach of all time, I know some guys like Phil Jackson and, Wood is up there too, but I think he's no lower than three for one of the best coaches of all time. And you know, it's the end of an era when you think about all the great players he's coached, from David Robinson to Tim Duncan, to Tony Parker, all the way up until Wemby, this past year and a half or so. But how do you feel about Coach Pop being done? I can't call him Coach Pop anymore. How do you feel about Pop being done?
I think it's the right decision for him, especially with his health declining. He had two strokes this year. After he
Mhm.
had the first one back in November, I was like, "Yo, he's not going to coach again." I called it. I said, made a video about on my other YouTube channel, especially when he had the one not too long ago recently. So I'm like,
Mhm.
Coach Pop, he's 76 years old. He made over $200 million during his 29 career year as a coach for the Spurs. So he has money saved up, man. I'm like, yo, just enjoy retirement. I know basketball is in his veins, is in his blood. He loves it so much. So that's why he's going to be, the team president of basketball operations to still be around the environment. But Coach Pop, man, should have just taken it easy. Again, at an age 76 years old, just enjoy your life. But yeah, one of the greatest coaches of all time. Like you just mentioned, like five-time NBA champion. He's coached what, six Hall of Famers, from David Robinson, Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker, Dominique Wilkins, along with Paul Gasol, who had a short stint with the
Yeah,
Spurs.
right.
And same thing, Kawhi Leonard, who we all expect when he decides to retire, he's going to be a first ballot Hall of Fame player. Even Coach Wemby, we have high expectation for Wemby when it's all said and done. Wemby's going to be a Hall of Fame player. And you see just the amount of respect that he's garnished from the league. You talk, Draymond Green, a guy that we both hate, has said tremendous great things about, Coach Pop. Even, started to get a little choked up, talk about him. DeMar DeRozan, who played for the Spurs for a little bit,
Mhm.
said how much tremendous respect and care he has for Greg Popovich. I remember when DeMar DeRozan's father passed away, Coach
Yeah,
Pop was in that room with him for hours. Like, I'm not leaving until you leave. And so he's like, forget the game. Like, life is more important than the game. So that just goes to show you the type of human being outside of coaching that he is. And like I say, it's the end of the era. You've seen a lot of these great Hall of Fame, Mount Rushmore players / coaches who are now, retiring, and we really are transcending to a new era in the NBA. But well deserved for Coach Pop, man. He's done everything more plus more in the NBA. If he's not in the Hall of Fame already, which I think he is, he
he
should
is.
be.
Yep,
Okay, so
he is.
he is. So congratulations to him. He has nothing else to prove, man. I like I said, but just enjoy retirement. You got multiple millions of dollars in the bank. You got property everywhere. Live your life, travel, enjoy. I know. Again, he lost his wife not too long ago, so probably
Yeah,
that's why he still wants to be around the game, because that pain and that hurt still stays with you. So thoughts and condolences again with Greg Popovich, but yeah, man, he should just retire. Like I said, after that
yeah,
happened, enjoy his life, man, and just enjoy the rest of his career and his life in basketball. He's forever immortalized as an icon in this game. So, congratulations to Coach Popovich on a quote unquote retirement, even though he's still going to be with the team.
yeah,
But yeah, well deserved, and thank
yeah.
God he's healthy and is still alive with us.
Yes, 100%. Last thing, Shams broke the news that the Celtics will most likely be making big moves this offseason, as we are 70 million over the cap. We are a second apron team, and we have five. My team has five players making over $28 million next year. Um, just to read the numbers of the top five: Tatum, who is 27 years old, will be making 54.1 million next year. and his contract means he is locked up until the summer of 2029, but he has a player option for 2030. Jaylen Brown, who is 28 currently, 53.1 million. He is locked up until the summer of 2029 as well, but no player option. 34-year-old Drew Holiday next year will be making 32.4 million. He's locked up until the summer of 2027 with a player option in 2028. 29-year-old Kristaps Porzingis will be making 30.7 million. He is locked up until next summer. And then 30-year-old Derek White will be making 28.1 million, and he as well is locked up until summer of 2028 with a player option in 2029. But my question is, who do you think out of those five is the most likely to maybe be gone if it's just one person?
Well, according to reports that I've seen, that they're gonna try to look to trade possibly Drew Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis.
Mhm.
Those the contracts that they're gonna look to get rid of. As you just mentioned, they got 4 or 5 guys making over $28 million a year. There's a reason why, again, the previous team owner sold this team is because he didn't want to be a part. Hey, he didn't want to pay that high ass luxury tax bill, and he did not want to be the reason to blow up this team because of the second apron consequences. But yeah, Drew Holiday, as you mentioned, is going to be 32, 33 years old, hasn't played much. So his contract is definitely movable. I don't think that they're going to try to keep Derek White as much as possible because there's been times when Brown and Tatum don't have it going offensively. He picks it up just like that, and that's exactly what the Celtics needed. Kristaps Porzingis, again, injury. He has been injury riddled. He has a long injury history list, so they signed him to that 4 year, $60 million extension. They're gonna look to get that off the books and save some type of money. And they just re-signed also as well too. Peyton Pritchardson got an extension. I believe it was like a 4 year, $30 million contract extension. So he,
Yeah, but yeah, so he makes 6, 7, 7, and then 8. So he's
yeah.
barely on the books.
Yeah, but it's, again, that's still money. That's $30 million. You're gonna have to pay him over the next course of 4 years. So yeah, it's just I think Holiday and Porzingis are gonna be the two likely moved. They'll still be over the luxury tax, but
Yeah,
that'll save them something.
yeah. I forget what the number that they had to pay in luxury tax over the past couple. I think it was like, I don't know. I think it was like pushing 3 or 400 mil or
Let
something.
me
But
see.
um, well, yeah, I agree. I think Drew is the most likely to be out the door. Well,
Damn.
that's not a good face. What's up?
Wow. So I just looked it up. So Google AI review based off Sports Track. So it says the Boston Celtics are projected to face a substantial luxury tax bill for the 2025-2026 season, potentially exceeding $280 million. This is
Mhm.
due to their high salary roster, which expected to push their total costs, including the luxury tax, close to 500 million. So half a bill that they're gonna
Yeah,
have to pay next year. Oh yeah, I believe. Yeah, no, we got to get rid of some players. That's way too much money. Damn.
yeah. I think the most likely, like you said, like I said, would be Drew. Um, but again, if we're 70 million over, I don't think it can just be Drew. I agree. I think it would be Drew and Porzingis, even though Porzingis loves being in Boston. And Boston loves, like, I love having Porzingis because he's a mismatch nightmare. But it's like the thing that scares me with the Porzingis thing is if we do trade these guys, our thing we need to prioritize the most is a center, because you look at it, Porzingis is a which it's insane that Porzingis isn't even 30 yet, but which I thought was crazy. But Porzingis, an injury riddled center. Al Horford is a almost retiree. He'll be off the books this year. I don't Maybe he retires after this year. Maybe he re-signs for like pennies on the dollar, who knows. But we would need another center, because we can't have Luke Cornett being our starting center on a championship caliber, on a team that still wants to compete. But the thing that also has, that a lot of ESPN people are saying, and people that just in general, people are talking about Jaylen Brown, which it surprises me. And but then you think about it more, it makes sense. Again, if he's making 53 million next year alone, that would get us pretty close. But I don't know. Jaylen Brown is homegrown. He was just our Finals MVP. Um, and I don't know if you trade something like that, you're not winning the trade. You're not going to win the trade, and if you do, that means that we got a lot of young players, and that's not what Boston wants to do right now. Especially when you have Tatum, you have all these guys, you have this starting five, but I don't know. The second apron, it's starting to ruin some teams. Say what you want about it, whether you like it or don't, but it's rough that someone's gonna have to go because again, as a Celtic fan, I like all these guys. I think you're right. I mean, obviously Tatum's not going. I didn't think Tatum or Brown would go unless one of them asked to be moved, which just doesn't seem in the cards right now. They both just signed two of the biggest deals ever. The summers right after each other. But and then Derek White, yeah, Derek White has been such a spark for us too in the backcourt because he was just looked at as a defensive guy, and at this point he's really one of the best two-way players in the league. But yeah, I think it's Drew when you talk about age to contract. Just based off next year, he will be making the third most money while being our second oldest player. That
Okay.
matters really because Torrey Craig, who cares, but
Yeah.
but it is great that we signed Pritchard for again 30 million, so his contract barely affects us. I mean, we've got like Sam Hauser, I think is probably going to be off the team this year because he's going to be making 10 mil, 10 mil, 10 mil, 11, then 12.
Jeez.
That's a little big for a guy like Sam Hauser who hadn't had the best year. Al Horford again this year made almost 10 million, but again, he's off the books unless we re-sign him, which I assume that they would. But I don't know. And I don't like that this came out when this should have come out we after we win the finals again. But but also I think people are also over exaggerating that it is like I don't think Drew Holiday and Derek White are arguing in the locker room saying, "Oh yeah, you're the one that's going to get traded," or "No, it's me." I don't really think it matters that much, but let us compete. Let us hopefully get a back to back this year, the first one since the Golden State Warriors, and then we can figure that out in the off season. But yeah, I mean, new owners. The new owner says he was a lifetime Boston Celtics fan, um, but he also will not have total control of the team for another couple years. Like he'll be in, those meetings, and he'll still be um, putting his stamp on the team, but he doesn't have complete control yet, and he won't for a few more years because obviously he just paid billions of dollars for a team. It's not like he gets it the next day. Like you're buying a couch from, a furniture store or something like that. So, um, yeah, it's intriguing to see what this team will look like next year. I don't think people were necessarily looking at the Celtics as a team that would be making big moves this offseason. Again, unless you're like a cap nerd and you knew this was going to happen, but I don't know.
Well, I think with the Celtics too, they knew eventually that this day was going to come, but they
Yes,
said,
yeah.
you know what? Let's just sign the players that we need to massive contracts, and it's all about winning the championship within the next year or two because we only have a short window to
Mhm.
compete for a title in the NBA. So they said, you know what? Forget about the future. Let's do it right now, and eventually we'll have those tough conversations, make those tough moves when it's time to come. But yeah,
Yep.
it just sucks that I'm not a fan at all of the second apron consequences because why should you penalize a team, a GM, a owner because they were able to put a championship team together and they were willing to spend the money. Championships don't come free. You have to spend a boatload of money. Allah, look how much money the Boston Celtics are spending this year, potentially next year. So they were able to put a roster construction together. And you're going to penalize a team for that? Because again, if you're a
Yeah.
multi-billionaire and you get a $500 million tax bill on top of that, you got to pay your roster, and you obviously have multiple other businesses that you also have to pay
Right.
tax as well for that. He's like, oh no, you guys just pretty much stripping me all my money. So I get it. I don't like it. I understand why they thought of this concept because they wanted to have parity. We want the more teams that are competitive, the better it is for the NBA. But then that should be up to the GMs and the president and the
Right.
owners to construct the team. Don't
If you're
penalize the team.
If
for
you're
doing
willing
that.
to pay the luxury tax, then
Yes.
like especially a luxury tax that looks like that looks like there's a typo in that bill, then I mean,
But
yeah,
but here's the thing though. But you got the Warriors owners have been doing it for years, and that's why they made those trades. That's why they weren't
yeah,
able to. They didn't want to re-sign Klay Thompson, whatever the case may be. But the luxury tax bill should not be that damn severe. We talk about $500 million. $280 million. Now, again, I do not feel sympathy for these billionaires because they are wealthy beyond their years. That's like pennies to them. But when you have to keep paying it year after year after year, remember, the owners are the ones signing off on these multi-billion millionaire contracts for these players. And on top of that, they're not only paying the players, they're paying the head coaches, the coaches staff, everybody else who works underneath that organization umbrella. So after a while, it adds up to a lot of money. So that's what I'm
yeah,
saying. It should not be fair to penalize a team, a owner who's willing to pay the luxury tax. The bill should not be that severe, but an owner who's willing to pay the luxury tax, and the fact that the team were able to construct players and pay them. I think it's just bullshit. That should be on other teams, general managers and owners and presidents, whatever the case may be, to construct their roster as they see fit. So Brad Stevens has a lot of tough decisions to make this upcoming summer.
yeah, and honestly, even if the second apron wasn't a thing, I would if I was part of the Celtics, I would still look at Drew trades because again, age, money in general, but you also have a guy who just won 6 man of the year who's ready to take that spot.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like I said with the center to where we don't really have somebody who's ready to take that spot and replace a Porzingis slash Al Horford. We have somebody who can take who can take that point guard spot, and we also have another point guard on our team who just won G League MVP, who's ready to get some rotational minutes as well. So
Well, here's the thing: if Drew Holiday's going to be the first casualty off this team, send him back to Milwaukee. Giannis needs a playmaker.
they
Giannis
don't
needs to
deserve him. They don't
Nah,
deserve it.
send him back to Milwaukee, man.
They don't
Hey,
deserve
the Bucks pretty much gift wrapped you guys the championship, trading him away for Dame. So and then
That's their mistake.
no,
What are
it
they
is their
giving
mistake.
me?
Now
What are they
listen,
giving me?
they got you guys a ring. You guys got a ring gift
No,
wrap
no,
in the
no.
version
But
of
what are
Drew
they giving
Holiday.
me now? They got Dame because of it. What are we getting now?
Oh, well, they don't have Dame for a whole year. We'll give you, hey, you guys want Kyle Kuzma? We'll give you salary cap relief. You guys get salary cap relief because you don't have to pay Drew
Not
Holiday
that
that
much.
massive
Kuzma makes a
contract.
lot. Kuzma
You know,
still makes a lot of money.
hey, listen, you guys want to pay Drew Holiday $32 million next year in excess of $500 million in luxury tax bill? Go right ahead. But we give you guys salary cap relief because you just mentioned y'all don't really need him. Peyton Pritchard can take that role. So
You
hey,
want to see if
give
that
the Bucks
trade?
Drew Holiday. Well, they'll be fine.
You want to
He's a
see if
second
that
round
trade
draft pick.
works?
Yeah,
You want to see if this trade works?
yeah. Do it on ESPN
Let's
trade
do this.
thingy.
I got Fanspo right here.
Okay.
So let's go. We got Boston. We got Milwaukee. We do need to remember we're a second apron team,
Okay.
and the Bucks aren't. So let's add Drew.
Yeah, and Kyle Kuzma.
Oh, although I gotta put this up here. Hold on, so people can
Let's
see.
see. Okay.
All right, so I put Drew on the Bucks,
Mm-hmm.
and then let's just say Kuzma, who's 22 for 2 years. Even
Mm-hmm.
though I don't know if I would want Kyle Kuzma. Just 1-for-1. Let's. How do you try this trade? 1-for-1. I don't think this is gonna work. Failed. Let's see. Um, we are. It works for the Celtics. We are under the allowable incoming amount by almost 10 million. But we are over. The Bucks are over by 3 million.
Man, the Bucks would take $3 million. What the hell? You kind of don't trust that. They will be perfectly fine eating $3 million. Again, I don't feel sorry for these billionaires. They
So
shit money.
let's adjust. Let's see. So almost 3 million would be
All
like
right, throw in Kevin Porter. Yeah.
Although I think he's got a player option, so he's on. We can't do him. Like
Okay.
Chris AJ Green, we want a Sam Hauser replacement.
Yeah, it's AJ Green. There you go.
I would want Andre Jackson if anything.
All right, yeah, that should work now.
Try. Still failed. What are they? 200,000. See,
why
it won't work with this. So
players could be like, here's 200,000. Everybody check the owners. They'll be fine.
whatever.
Come on, man. I don't.
Maybe we'll do an episode where we bring some trades for.
Yeah.
Maybe in the off season we'll do an episode where we bring trades to the table, and we'll see what each other thinks of our own trades. But
John Horst, if you're watching this, go out and get Drew Holiday back.
that would mean a general manager or owner is admitting they made a mistake. Owners don't do that. Owners don't do that.
That's true, but hey, man, I think anybody would have traded if you were in that position. Like we could get Damian Lillard for Drew Holiday. They should have given up Middleton because Middleton injury history, but they're like, we're not getting back. We know Middleton's injury history too. We don't want that piece of shit player. Now you better give us Drew value for value. Come on, man.
They don't deserve to have him back. He can go somewhere. He can go somewhere else and be impactful. But Milwaukee don't deserve him back.
Imagine you get traded to Lakers. Rob Pelinka somehow finesses that.
No way. Their ass needs to worry about some big man play before some Drew Holiday. Because that would mean like Reeves is coming off the bench or Drew or something. Yeah. Unless you're playing all four of LeBron, Luka, Reeves, and Drew together, which is I don't think something they want to do. Mm-mm. But
just throwing ideas here. That's all.
Yeah. Well, I would love to see other things instead of that.
Yeah. That would be fun though. That would be fun. Yep. But all right. That is it for another episode of the Hoops All In podcast. Thank you guys again for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe and like. Follow us on our social media platforms at Hoops All In on Instagram, TikTok, and X. And don't forget to follow and subscribe to Keith's YouTube channel at Keith HAI. Werls Francois, Keith Bazin. We are signing off. Also, again, don't forget to listen to us on our on the audio version. So podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you stream your daily or weekly podcast, we're there. For once again, another episode of Hoops All In. Werls Francois, Keith Bazin signing off. We'll catch you guys next time and continue to enjoy the NBA playoffs.